Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source for all things World Wondering Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by my good friend, your good friend, the world's good friend, Mr. Positivity himself, Mr. Matt Turner. Matt Turner, happy Thanksgiving for Thursday, which is something that I have found out now, ladies and gentlemen. It is always on a Thursday, apparently. Did you have a lovely weekend, and did you give thanks in the right way with your family?
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. It is the ultimate cheat on your diet day, and I sure did that. I stuffed myself with so many different types of desserts, turkey, my phenomenal wife Amber makes a fantastic mashed sweet potatoes. So I had that, corn casserole, broccoli, and then after we get done eating, our annual tradition is we drive the hour back to where I grew up, right outside Scranton, and we have dessert over my grandfather's house, which we eat with my parents and my aunt. But that wasn't enough, Rob. My grandfather said, you know what, let's have some ham sandwiches. So we ate again. Not only that, but my grandfather is as old school as Italian as you can be. So not only did we have honey glazed ham after we ate, but then he had the whole entire accoutrement of Italian stuff there, like fresh mozzarella. We had prosciutto, roasted red peppers, perfectly seasoned tomatoes. So then we ate again and then ate dessert again. So that was fantastic. And I had some nice time off work. So it was nice to recharge the batteries and come up with some new ideas for this podcast, which I literally text you, I think, every other hour. It's like, oh, I have this idea. I have this idea. I have this idea. And then I kind of topped it off just last night. Myself, my wife, and my parents, we went to go see the Jason Bonham Led Zeppelin experience. Now, Rob, I'm going to give a little plug for an episode we did a few months ago when we had none other than Carrie Silken on. And Carrie is he's an expert as when it comes to those bands from the 60s and 70s and 80s. And I did make mention, if I can go into a time machine and there's one band that I could go see, it would definitely be Led Zeppelin in the 70s. Let me tell you, this is the second time I've seen Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience. Now, Jason Bonham is the son of the late, great John Bonham, who was, of course, the drummer for Led Zeppelin, and arguably the greatest rock and roll drummer of all time. Like I said, this is my second time seeing this Led Zeppelin experience. It is the closest you will get to seeing the actual Led Zeppelin, because they're absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, obviously my closest experience is going to watch the what was the Mothership show, when they did a gig that was sort of beamed around and into cinemas and things, and Jason Bonham was the drummer for that. Led Zeppelin, one of my favourite ever bands. They're incredible, and obviously they were done long before my time, but yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. I did see the pictures. We don't have anything quite as big as that in the UK. We have something called Fred Zeppelin, and it is the Robert Plant approved Led Zeppelin tribute band. So I feel like if you have got Robert Plant's approval, you're in pretty good hands. So yeah, that's about as close as we tend to get. I'm also glad that you said cheat on our diets, because you left a really, like, a longer pause between cheat, and I was like, what's he going to say here? It's the only time of the year that you can cheat on your diet. I was like, bloody hell, don't do that to me, Matt. Announce that to the podcasting world. What are you doing?
That's an old rib between me and a lot of my wrestling friends towards the Scranton area, because when I'd be gearing up for a big show, I would, or just really just any show, that I would really make sure I hardcore diet like 7 to 10 days. And when I would be wrestling, literally, I used to wrestle for a company called Grand Slam Wrestling, which folded a handful of years ago. And they ran to my hometown of Old Forge, Pennsylvania, and all my friends from back home who still live in that area, they'd come and see me wrestle, and we would go to the local bar we would always go to called Dooley's. So matches would get done, and I would have some of the younger kids that, were 21, 22, and I'm like, hey, come on out, I'll buy you a drink, whatever. I said, hey, I really worked really hard on my diet. So I really worked really hard on my physique. So I'm going to go, tonight, I'm going to get really drunk and I'm going to cheat. And then I would take a drink of water. I go on my diet. Like, oh my God, I thought you were going to say your wife. I was like, absolutely not. So it's kind of old habits die hard. So even you, brother, I even got you on that one, half a world away.
Well, I'm currently eating my evening meal because I like to eat well before football, but I got my timings all sorts of wrong tonight, as Matt can attest, because this is the third different time he's had for the podcast today. So, yeah, I choked on a bit of rice. I was like, what is he telling me? I don't feel comfortable with this, but no, I'm glad you're only cheating on your diet. You are, of course, in fantastic shape, my friend. But yeah, what a week in wrestling. We had CM Punk come back, and then, of course, the huge return at Survivor Series of R-Truth, which I feel like went a little bit overshadowed, but in the more sort of centric Stardom verse, let's say, things seem to be quietening down after what was a chaotic week, I think is fair to say, last week. We've got some more news in regards to that. We've got a whole litany of shows, and then, of course, we've got the preview of Stardom's latest pay-per-view, which is going to be running this Saturday, Nagoya Big Winter 2023, and not wishing to jump the gun or to spoil people's enjoyment of this episode, but I would argue this card has the potential to be one of the best pay-per-views Stardom have run this year. All in all, I think the shows they've run were really good, and then the Korakuen that we're going to be talking about in a little bit of detail, because that did only go up this morning. Fair play to Stardom for the very, very quick turnaround of that show. But Matt hasn't had a chance to see it. But I've managed to watch most of it. So we're going to do the results and things to do with that. We're going to do that right at the end. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want it spoiled, just skip ahead maybe 10 minutes. To avoid our talk of the Korakuen. But before we delve into all of the news and everything, Matt, would you like to tell the good people at home what's coming up on the Patreon this week?
Absolutely, brother. I might do a bonus episode of the Stardom Cast Extra, and I'm going to base this on the most heated rivalry in the history of Stardom. No, it's not Io versus Mayu. No, it's not Sherry versus Utami. It's not even Tam versus Giulia. It is Rob Goodwin versus his internet provider. Because boy howdy, brother, I know you were fired up on Monday, were you not?
Oh, spat rice everywhere. I was like, where's he going with this? I was going in my head going, what other feuds are there? Utami and Suri, maybe? Yes, yeah, to say I was fired up is a little bit of an understatement. We had some sort of server issue that was sort of central to our internet provider. And then they got the internet working again yesterday, but not strong enough to stream anything. So we are a little bit behind in our recording schedule, but hopefully things will settle down soon, Matt. Maybe our internet will even start working, but I know that's a pipe dream, I think.
So where I was going with that, this past Monday, we were supposed to record with my tag partner and good friend, Andy Header, for our What If, which was What If myself and Andy, Team Blue and Gold, were booked in current day Stardom. Rob texted me, Matt, whenever I see that, I know things are serious. So thank God after I read the text, it was only his internet was not working. We probably had to reschedule. It's very much like when I get a text message from Rob Goodwin and it says Matt, I think of like if Jim Ross back in the 90s would take his hat off. like Jerry Lawler would pull the strap down. You know it's serious. But that was it. And I was like, not a problem. We will figure out. Rob's general idea was, well, why don't you just you and Andy just stream it together and send it to me and we'll figure it out. And I was like, no, I want you to be there because my ideas for this podcast are so crazy and insane. I want your general reaction. So Rob and I, we position ourselves as professionals. So whenever we have a guest, we do everything in our power to not cancel. But however, Andy Header is easily the easiest going, nicest person I ever met. So if there's one person we're going to cancel on and is going to be okay because of that reason, it was him. So I text him, no problem. Probably later today or tomorrow, Rob and I will talk off air and we'll try to reschedule. But we will have Andy back on hopefully in the next week or so. That What If will be coming to you. But what it is on the Patreon feed, just about an hour or so ago before we recorded, we uploaded the 2019, my review of the 2019 year-end climax. Also, the alternate commentary for Tam versus Giulia from All-Star Grand Queendom. That is up on your Patreon feed, as well as our fantastic conversation career retrospective roundtable with the one and only Karen Peterson as we talk about the fantastic career thus far of one Giulia. And I know me and you talked off air as soon as we got done. That might be one of, if not the best podcast we've ever done. We had an absolute blast. And if that wasn't the best podcast we've ever done, it might have been the one we released last week where we go over our top 5 favorite female matches of all time with Allison Danger. So yeah, my friend, we've been putting out some really, really high quality content. And I know we have some new Patreon listeners, and I know that we've been getting a lot of really good reviews about what we're doing, not only on Patreon, but the weekly feed as well. So thanks to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That podcast with Karen was a whole heap of fun. And every podcast we do tends to be very, well, fun for me anyway. But this,
fun. I have fun too.
It goes over 2 hours, which, listeners of this podcast who've listened for a while will probably find that extremely unsurprising. But yeah, it was a lot of fun and the time flew by. So I'm looking forward to more people hearing that. And hopefully the work with Andy Header will be up as soon as possible. It is my fault, so I apologise for that. We'll get that up to you as soon as possible. Speaking of new patrons, thank you to everyone who has subscribed over on patreon.com/the Stardomcast, including our newest patron, Warehouse Janitor. Thank you so much for your subscription and thank you so much for your support. Let's kick in to some news then. And it was a bit of doom and gloom last week surrounding Stardom. And we ended the podcast on a positive note, which I think is more than fair. We talked about the negatives, and I think it's only fair that we counteract that with the positives. And obviously the main crux of what we were talking about last week was the Giulia interview that she gave, which was very frank and very honest about how things were being run. Bushiroad have responded to that. Obviously, we have got a change in management, which takes effect on the 1st of December. And obviously, the gentleman came out, Mr. Okada came out at the Korakuen show to introduce himself. And people seem quietly confident that things are going to get better. However, it wasn't just Giulia that came out and said, basically bared their soul. Rossi Ogawa came out and had his say on things and how he was kept away from booking and how people were meddling and things like that. Micah also came out and gave an interview to Tokyo Sport. One quote which we got was very, very interesting. And again, this translation is courtesy of Shigeo on Twitter at SG_OXXT. And Micah said, I have had a sense of crisis since Bushiroad Fight started holding shows that did not bear the Stardom name. I think they have lost the trust of Stardom fans and rosters by doing so. Now, reading a little bit more of this seems to be in relation to the Stardom in Showcase shows, which, we talked last week, Matt, about how the Halloween show, which I think for both of us is comfortably the worst show of the year, and the Stardom in Showcase shows, which they've subsequently stopped, weren't our cups of tea. at all. That's not why we tune in to Stardom. But to then hear that the roster also have this negativity surrounding the shows and feel like, not necessarily that they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do, but, you know, to quote this translation, you know, they've lost a little bit of trust in Bushiroad fight because of it. That's really difficult to get back, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But at the same time, it's a fence that they're going to have to mend, and I have full confidence that they will. The main thing, and we talked about this, I believe 2 weeks ago, is they just have to keep communication open. You know, it really seems like where the communication was having an issue, it seems like that they fixed that with a change in direction, which I believe starts this Friday, December 1st. So hopefully moving forward. Now, I did see on the Korakuen show that just got released today is that the new president comes out to the Korakuen show and the crowd and introduces himself and basically cuts a little promo. So I'm interested to see and hear what he said and how the Korakuen Hall crowd will react to him. So yeah, obviously it's difficult to get back, but I think as long as they keep communication open, especially with Rossi. Rossi seems to be the conduit between Bushiroad and his roster of Stardom wrestlers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I have full faith that they will.
Yeah, completely. And it's obviously good that you've mentioned Mr. Okada because Sky Wrestling, friend of the show, the third best looking man on the Stardom cast. Well, second, because I look terrible today. But he's put forward a little bit of a translation of an interview that Taro Okada, the new president, has had with Tokyo Sports again. And basically the two big notes to come out of that are that there will only be one pay-per-view a month and there will be less shows on the year-long schedule. Now, if you think back, Matt, to the strategy meeting that Stardom had alongside New Japan, and you got the impression that, you know, we saw the escalation in the amount of shows year on year on year on year, with obviously 2020 being the outlier. And the promise seemed to be, right, well, we've got to, I think it was 140 shows last year or something like that. We're going to go even harder next year, and we want to go to all 40. Oh, people are going to hate me for this. I want to say 47 prefectures. I think it's 47. You know, we're going to go to all 47 prefectures. We've done 44. Let's do for all 47. Let's go all around Japan. And it felt, if anything, during that meeting, that Stardom was going to put forward more dates and do more shows and be even more stretched. And it's funny how we now have come full circle into less shows and one pay-per-view a month and a change of ownership and a change of direction. And you look at this year and you can sort of see the wear and tear on the roster. And obviously we are still in the midst of all of these injuries, and we've had two more, which we're going to be talking about in a moment. I personally am very, very excited by the new direction. You know, there's that old adage, less is more. And I think that is going to be key. If you have got one pay-per-view a month, that's perfect, because that's when your wrestlers go hardest. It also, if you have got pay-per-views, you've got to give people the best cards you possibly can to get people to want to put the money down. Now, if you're doing 2, even 3 pay-per-views a month, which they've done in some, I think they did 3 in July, people are not going to tune in for all 3. However, if you put on one killer show a month, people are going to pay for that, and more people are going to pay for that because you won't have seen the matches. And I think that is a better way to go. And more importantly, you are protecting your roster. The most important commodity in Stardom is the fact that you have the best roster in wrestling. And we have seen over the past couple of weeks how stretched Stardom has been because of the ridiculous schedule that they are working. If they as Mr. Okada has said in Tokyo Sports, they're doing less shows. They're not going to put pay-per-views in the middle of tournaments, and they're going to focus on one pay-per-view a month. I'm very excited for Stardom's direction come 2024, Matt.
Yeah, I did see that. Well, they're going to do one pay-per-view a month, so that's good. I wouldn't be opposed to the back-to-back nights on pay-per-views of the G1, the 5-star, just because of how good they were back-to-back. The only thing is, instead of, if you're going to, they should maybe do a package where if you're going to get them back-to-back, you maybe save like 50%. Like, say it's like $30 for each night, but if you buy them as a bulk, it'll be like 40, 45. I have no problem with that. When they did it in 2021 and 2022, those shows were absolutely fantastic, and you were literally in the same venue. So other than that, I mean, like I said, I would have no problem if they would do them Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday for the 5-star, and you're basically banging out 2 nights, right there. So you're done there. Then you give the roster a week off. And then, maybe you run one show the next Saturday. So that one I would have no problem with if they were to do 2 pay-per-views that month. But yeah, them doing one a month, my friend, you hit it exactly right, that the wrestlers are going to give a little bit more effort. Not that they don't give they give 100%. Don't get me wrong. This Stardom roster on every show, especially Hazuki, gives 100% pretty much all the time. But yeah, because of the fact that they're going to, the pay-per-view tickets are a little bit more for the fans in attendance, and obviously they want to draw us, the audience, that can't be at whatever venue they're at, to go and buy it on pay-per-view, where it's like, well, I'm only getting this once every 4 or 5 weeks, and I'm getting better match quality. You know what I mean? It's like the old saying, how can I miss you if you don't go away? But when Stardom is having a pay-per-view, once every 2 weeks, or sometimes I think there was that one time that they had 2 pay-per-views within 10 days. It's like, holy geez. But if you're doing a pay-per-view once every 4 or 5 weeks, it's just like, oh, it's almost like a little Christmas present. Like, I can't wait for, this Saturday or this Sunday, because I'm going to see Hazuki versus Suzuki. And then, at the end of the month, I'm going to see AphroditE versus FWC. I'm just making, something up for hopefully that we see at the end of the year. But anyway, yeah, I like that you're doing once a month, because not only does it give our wallets a little bit of a breather, it makes it more special. It gives us talent a little bit more of a breather. And it's basically, I think it's a win-win on all situations. And I'm glad they addressed that now. And like I said, like you said, partner, we do have a clear direction on where they're going for the end of this year based on this Korakuen show, and for in 2024, for how fantastic Stardom has been in 2021 and 2022. Don't get me wrong, they were great this year too, but I just think they just hit the gas way, way too much, and they hit a couple potholes, a couple bumps along the way, and it seems like that now they're going to steer the ship back where they need it to be, at this time last year. So I'm real excited for where Stardom's going to be, especially with them pushing a lot of the talent, the new talent, towards the top of the card. So really interesting and exciting stuff to be a Stardom fan.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because in the absence of Utami, in the absence of Saya, of Tam, and of Mayu more recently, it's sort of forced other talent into that main event position. And actually, Stardom have got a very, very happy issue now, because you've now got all of those people I've just mentioned to come back. And now Maika feels like a bona fide main eventer. Momo Watanabe has been doing fantastic work. Mina Shirakawa has proved again that she is more than capable of going to the main event level. And it's going to be interesting, because again, they've got that happy issue where actually they've got too many main eventers, which, is a very, very happy problem to have, Matt, but it's been good in some ways, and I'm being very careful with my wording here, because obviously it's not good that the likes of Koguma is injured, Natsupoi's injured, Momokogo's injured, Wakasukiyama's injured, but it's good to know that this raft of injuries that we've had hasn't derailed the company to the point where, we're getting bad matches. We've still got talent on these cards that is more than capable of stepping up. And that's really exciting, especially for the likes of Amisori, who has been sort of thrust into that tournament for the red belt, and I thought handled herself really, really well. She might not be, we might not be talking about her as as a future Red Belt champion just yet, but she more than held her own against Micah and came across as a big, dominant beast, which I thought was really, really good. Speaking...
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, Matt, go on.
No, I just wanted to add on to your thing with Ami Sourei. Obviously, she had a phenomenal 5-star tournament. We mentioned a few months ago when we got done with that tournament that she was the one that really elevated herself, her and Hanan, the most of that tournament. And obviously, we're gonna talk about it when we review these shows. The 2 shows leading up to the Korakuen show, they really did a great job building Ami Sourei up. I mean, she ran through everybody. They highlighted her. She had promo time, calling out Micah, showed a lot of fire to the point where it's like you're looking at those brackets. Okay, Mina, she's a main eventer. Momo has been in the main event scene off and on since 2018. We know that they're pushing Micah. So you're looking at Ami Sourei. It's just like, it'll be a good match, but she's kind of like the one that doesn't belong. Stardom did a brilliant job booking her the previous shows. Making her look like a star, making her look aggressive. And again, I did not see the Korakuen show, but from what everybody told me, Ami Sourei came up like a huge star. And I think she's going to be one in a year from now that we're going to be talking about, like how we talked about Mina, what Mina was able to do from 2021 to 2022. And now at the end of 2023, she is a bona fide main eventer. I would not be shocked to see Ami Sourei either in a red belt match or a top tier match a year from now, because she has that much potential and she's improving by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, she is certainly one of the most improved this year, alongside the like of Mai Sakurai. And again, I think now I go back to that match, I believe it was at the end of January or the start of February, where she challenged Saya Kamitani for the white belt. And it felt, and again, no disrespect to Ami, it felt very much like a filler defense. However, if you were to put Ami Sourei now in that same position, I don't think there's many people who follow Stardom that would think twice about that being A, a very, very good match, and B, well earned. Now, moving on a little bit. We have talked a little bit about injuries and more specifically the people that are still out. But unfortunately, adding to that is Lady C, who during the Bushiroad Expo in Singapore, which we're going to be talking about in a moment, Lady C sustained a neck injury. It seems to be catching. And she is going to be out of action until after December the 10th. Now, Stardom have announced a whole raft of shows running from the 3rd of December all the way through to the 10th of December. And Lady C does not appear on any of them. I am led to believe as well that Yuna Mizumori was injured. I don't know if she still is, because she was on that Korakuen card. And I think she might have just had a slight injury and then came back. So we'll scratch her off for now. But yeah, Lady C added to the injury table. That injury table at the moment is as follows. Lady C, Mayu Iwatani, who is still recovering from that dislocated little finger. Now, of all the injuries that we're talking about, I'm hoping that Mayu Iwatani is the one that is going to be back soonest. Mayu Iwatani, Natsupoi and Tam, Nakano, Saki Kashima, Koguma, Lady C, as I've already mentioned, Momo Koga, Waka Tsukiyama, and Aya Sakura are all still out with injuries. Now, I've seen things from Waka, and she seems to be doing quite well. Obviously, we've seen Natsupoi, who's very active on social media. She seems to be okay. It's very different, obviously, being okay and being able to take a bloody wrestling bump, especially some of the bumps these women take. But, I have heard that it's not going to require surgery. So hopefully with a little bit of rehab, we'll see Natsupoi in the new year. Tam, obviously, I don't know what is going to happen with Tam. There's been murmurings that perhaps she's going to look at retirement. Obviously, there's been nothing confirmed about that, and that is just all internet speculation. But, of course, we do know that both her and Mayu Iwatani sort of teased retirement about 2 years ago. Mayu, of course, who seems to tease retirement at least once every 18 months. And hopefully will never ever retire, because I don't know if I can go on without our Lord and Saviour Mayu Iwatani. But yeah, Momo Kogo as well seems to have been out on and off for a long, long time. I know that obviously she went to Philly for the show with Giulia, Diana Perazzo, and Giselle Shaw, but I don't actually remember seeing her on many cards since, Matt.
Yeah, I don't even remember them giving like an official announcement. I mean, maybe I just missed it. So I mean, it seems like every time that somebody's injured, that they give an announcement, maybe it just got lost in the shuffle, or I don't know, or maybe it was maybe she asked for time off. I'm not sure. I mean, you have not to put you on the spot, partner, but do you by chance have a report or like an ETA when she's coming back? Because it's been very, very quiet with her.
No, I haven't. So I've got no idea what's wrong with Momo Kogo. Obviously, Tam is her knee, Natsupoi's the neck, Mayu Iwatani is her finger, Waka Tsukiyama had that oh no, was it? Yes, it was her who had the hernia issue. So hers is her stomach. Who was it who had appendicitis? Oh, that was Hanan. Hanan had appendicitis. Aya Sakura, I think, might have been her back. I think. Thinking back, she's been out for a considerable amount of time. I think it was either a neck or a back. Lady C is obviously her neck. Koguma has also been out for a while. I think she only did the first maybe 2 matches of the tag league. So hopefully, I haven't heard much more about her. I've heard nothing about Saki since. So obviously no ETAs for the returns. Again, with Mayu's, I don't want to say just being a dislocated finger, because having dislocated my finger, I know exactly how painful it is and how difficult it is to do things, especially if it's with your dominant hand. Obviously, I'm hoping that she will be in the running to return for Dream Queendom, because obviously you want to put on your best possible show, and your best possible show needs to include Mayu Iwatani, even if it's in a multi-woman tag. Again, Scotty Wrestling, who is the hardest working man in Joshi, has summarized some of the more interesting matchups from the cards announced, again, all the way from the 3rd of December all the way through to the 10th. So these are the matchups to keep your eye on. On the 3rd of December, we have got an 8-woman tag, Syuri Mirai, Misori and Alice Inc. versus Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, Azumi and Miyu Amasaki. It is so good to say Utami Hayashishita and Saya Kamatani's names on the podcast without going, are still out injured. 5th of December, we have got Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira versus Utami Hayashishita and Azumi. Yes, please. Plug it into my veins.
Wow. Merry Christmas, everybody. Early, 20 days early. Holy jeez.
Absolutely. That is going to be tasty. And then Mina Shirakawa and Tekla, which I think low-key could be a really, really, really good match. They gelled really well when they were feuding with for the SWA belt. So hopefully...
And they're better now.
Oh,
and they're way better now. Yeah.
Absolutely. 6th of December, Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, Azumi, Miyu Amasaki, taking on Natsukatora, Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Ruaka. And then, another tag match, which will see Crazy Star, Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira, taking on Mafia Bella, Giulia and Tekla. That's another really, really good tag match. 7th of December, we've got another 8-woman tag, Syuri Mirai, Misori and Alice Inc. Versus Giulia, Maika, Tekla, and Mei Sakurai. 9th of December, another really good tag match, Giulia and Maika versus Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira. Again, yes, please. And then an interesting singles match, Megan Bayne versus Alice Inc. I'm intrigued by that one.
Ooh, that's going to be hard hitting, my friend. That's going to be real quick, brother. Not to cut you off, but like seriously, Stardom World, folks, is less than $7 a month.
I know.
The matches Rob just rattled off. Plus, around the time these shows come up on Stardom World, more than likely the pay-per-view from Saturday, the 2nd, is going to be up on Stardom World. Plus, you get all the back catalog. I had a whole bunch of people this past week tell me they just signed up for Stardom World. I've been giving them some matches to watch. Again, it's less than $7 a month. If you're not subscribing to this, what are you doing? I'm sorry. I don't know how much more to say it. Like, what are you doing? It's less than $7 a month, folks. It's less than $2 a week for these cars, plus the whole back catalog, plus everything else you're going to get. Unbelievable, my friend.
And then finally, the 10th of December, Utami, Saya, Azumi, and Miyu Amasaki versus Giulia, Maika, Mai Sakurai, and Tekla in an elimination match. Shiori Mirai, Amisuri, and Alice Inc. versus Natsukatora, Momo Watanabe, Starlight, and Ruaka in another elimination match. Again, thank you to Scotty Wrestling, who has summarized all of those cards. It's worth noting as well, and this is something Scott has hypothesized, that obviously these cards all run after the Nagoya Big Winter show and are on the lead up to Dream Queendom. And he sort of speculates what sort of preview matches ahead of Queendom are we seeing here. So obviously we'll have more of a complete idea of what we're going to be looking at Dream Queendom after the 2nd of December. But I wonder if there are, in these sort of feed-in matches, these feed-in cards, I wonder if there is going to be some previews that we can glean. I mean, I'm looking now, and there's no real, unless I'm just missing it, which is quite possible, there's no consistent matchups that I'm seeing a lot of. I think God's Eye are feuding with AphroditE, but everyone's feuding with AphroditE, so that's irrelevant.
AphroditE's got AphroditE, brother. To quote a guy I know, AphroditE's got AphroditE.
AphroditE has got to AphroditE, Matt Turner. Moving on from this, obviously, we'll know a little bit more next week, because once that show's done, the Nagoya Big Winter card, we will inevitably have a press conference and more will be announced. I just want to briefly talk about the shows that Stardom ran as part of the Bushiroad Expo in Asia. They ran 3 shows in Singapore alongside the Singapore promotion Grapple Max. Stardom were going to send, I believe, 7 wrestlers, sorry, we said last week, didn't we? Initially, it was going to be Hazuki Meisera, Azumi Lady C, Mina Shirakawa Tekla, and Momo Watanabe. However, apparently there was an issue with Momo Watanabe's passport, so she didn't make the journey, which is slightly upsetting. But what was nice to see was, I believe it was Azumi posted something on Instagram that said this is the first time she's left Japan. So for her, not just to wrestle abroad, but to actually go abroad and to be afforded that opportunity, I thought was a really, really, really cool little thing to take from these shows. So obviously all of these cards are a mesh of the 6 remaining women, and I'll quickly whip through these results. All these cards, of course, had matches based from Grapple Max as well. I'm not going to go through all of those, but on night 1, which was the 24th of November, Mina Shirakawa defeated Tekla in 8 minutes and 10 seconds, and then the tag team of Hazuki and Meisera defeated the Queen's Quest team of Azumi and Lady C in 12 minutes and 13 seconds. I know that got quite a lot of buzz online, so that might be worth checking out if and when they appear on Stardom World. Night 2 was from the 25th of November, and that saw 3 singles matches. Tekla defeating Lady C in 7 minutes 51 seconds. Azumi versus Mina Shirakawa went to a 10-minute time limit draw, and then Hazuki defeated Meisera in 8 minutes and 32 seconds. Something tells me that Hazuki hit Meisera very, very hard during that match. And then night 3, the 26th of November, 3 more singles matches. Hazuki defeating Tekla in 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Azumi and Meisera, again, a singles matches I would certainly not say no to. That ended in a 10-minute time limit draw. And then Mina Shirakawa defeated Lady C in 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Moving on, Matt, let's talk a little bit about these cards that we're going to talk about. So, as of recording, the shows that are on Stardom World are the show from the 23rd in Nagoya, the show from the 25th in Sayama, and the show from the 26th in Koriyama, Fukushima, and then obviously the Korakuen show as well. But let's start all the way back on the 23rd, the show from Nagoya. This was from the Nagoya Congress Center event hall, 432 people in attendance, which is a healthy enough attendance for that venue. The results are as follows. Miyu Amasaki defeated the rookie Yuzuki in her second match with the Tensai in 8 minutes and 59 seconds. Starlight Kid won a three-way match against Hanako and Yuna Mizumori, submitting Yuna with the Black Tiger leg killer in 9 minutes and 34 seconds. The Scandinavian Hurricane, Alice Inc., defeated Saya Ida in 7 minutes and 34 with the high kick. The new tag team of Hanan and Nanai Takahashi, which I didn't know I needed in my life, but now I absolutely want to see more of that team, defeated the Ueda Tai team of Natsuko Tora and Ruaka, Hanan pinning Ruaka with 17. Megan Bayne versus Suzu Suzuki went to a time limit draw in 15 minutes. And then in your main event, we had the God's Eye team of Amisori, Mirai, and Suri defeating the Donna Del Mondo team of Giulia, Maika, and Mei Sakurai in 15 minutes and 46 seconds. Amisori pinning Mei Sakurai with the like a lightning bolt. But more than that, Amisori then cut a scathing promo on Maika, which I absolutely loved, and it just straight away added just that little bit more fire to their match at Korakuen Hall. Not that it needed it was a one-night tournament, but I loved the confidence that Amisori had as she was delivering it. It was like she meant every single word, Matt.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be one that has a lot of steam at going towards the end of this year and going into 2024. You know, we mentioned a little bit ago that Stardom did a great job making sure Amisori looked as strong as possible coming out of these shows. She won. And there's one show where she wrestled twice back to back and just took out, two of the rookies, and then they put her in these main event spots, not only getting a win, but then promo time as well, really making it like she's a huge threat to someone that was the finalist of the 5-star tournament and won the Goddesses of Stardom tournament earlier this year. So again, kudos to Stardom by taking somebody like Amisori and going into this tournament at Korakuen Hall and really, really building her up to make it look like she had a really, really good shot at defeating Maika. So yeah, really excited to see what to do with Amisori, from now to the end of the year, and just to see what she's going to do in 2024. So kudos to Stardom for giving Ami the ball, and even bigger kudos to Ami for slam dunking it through the hoop, or if you're an NFL fan or college football fan, running the end zone and scoring 6. So yeah, great job. I just want to mention one thing real quick, Rob, before I forget, that I was handed a note from our friends over at Stardom that Yuzuki in Japanese means bow, and that's why Yuzuki does the bow and arrow pose when she gets to the ring. So little tidbit, and thanks to our friends over at Stardom for that. And yeah, really cool that now I know. And like G.I. Joe taught me, Rob, when I was a very young lad, the more you know, knowledge is power, my friend.
Absolutely. G.I. Joe quotes. God, we never fail to surprise, do we? I actually, just on top of that, Darren Chan actually commented on the last post on our Patreon to say that Yuzuki actually graduated at the same time as Hanan. So I believe they were classmates. So there you go.
Like Masao and Kawada, brother. That's what we're going to get. I'm all for it.
If in 12 years' time we are getting that level of feud between Hanan and Yuzuki, I am all there for it, my friend. All there for it. We might as well start with Yuzuki, to be fair, because obviously we sang her praises after the New Blood show, and rightly so, because she had a really, really, really good showing against Momo Watanabe. Not just good for a rookie, a good full stop showing. And she continued it here. And I thought personally that this would be not more of a test for her, but Miyu Amasaki is still quite new in her own career, whereas Momo Watanabe is something of a ring general by this point. And I thought it'd be interesting to see how Yuzuki fared against Miyu Amasaki. And I wasn't worried, but I needn't have worried, because what followed was an extremely exciting matchup. Yuzuki, again, just seems a natural at wrestling and already seems more than a rookie. Miyu Amasaki, again, we talked about her last week about how much she's improved. I thought she attacked this match and attacked Yuzuki with a renewed violence that I really like seeing from her.
I liked how, like, when this match graphic came up, I was like, oh, okay. Obviously, Yuzuki, I believe this was her second match ever. So you know that Miyu is leading this match. And I'm pretty sure Miyu has never led a match before, just because she's only been wrestling, year
That's what I mean.
half.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I was like, this is going to be interesting. And again, I love it how Stardom gives the tests to these wrestlers. Now, if this match is, we're not expecting Steamboat Flair here, right? We're just expecting reps. We're going to see how Yuzuki's going to do in her second match with somebody relatively still new to wrestling, Miyu Amasaki, leading the match. And it's the first match. It goes roughly around 9 minutes, and it was solid. They kept it simple. They kept the storytelling well. Miyu really shined Yuzuki up, made her look really good, and in the end, Miyu winds up, getting the win with the Tensai over Yuzuki. And I thought this was really good, because now Stardom's like, okay, we it seems like we know we have a big player here in Yuzuki. And we know that Miyu is improving by leaps and bounds. But can Miyu not only lead a match, but lead a match into somebody is only their second match? And I thought that both these ladies passed the test. So now that's something else that they can add. They can think in the back of their heads that when they're putting together these matches, we know Yuzuki is more than capable of going out there and putting on a pretty good match. But now we have Miyu Amasaki that can start to lead some of these matches. So again, Stardom does this phenomenally, is when they give everybody an opportunity, to get better and to be able to do things like this. So I thought this was really interesting when the show started out like this. And again, for all intents and purposes, these two ladies hit it out of the park.
Yeah, agreed. I think had Miyu Amasaki not had that injury so soon after she debuted against Utami, I think she'd be well on her way to like serious mid-carder as opposed to lower mid-carder. Because I think the injury, she came back and she wasn't the same. I personally don't think. And that's reasonable, obviously. But I think over the last probably 2-3 months, she's come back, and every time she's been in the ring, she's improved, and she keeps, improving. And when she first debuted, we had a similar buzz about her that we have for Yuzuki. If you remember that match with Utami at the first New Blood, I believe, we were all like, she's really good. She's got this beautiful knee bar. It's, oh my God. And then she had the injury. She came back and sort of nothing really happened. She, if anything for me anyway, went backwards a little bit. And now to see her leading matches, leading them well, and sort of bringing in characterization to matches like this as well. Huge step forward. Huge props to both women. I am so excited to see what we are talking about in regard to these two women in the next 2 years. Because genuinely, I know Scott said something about Yuzuki being the future of Stardom. And obviously at this point when I saw it, I think she'd had 3 matches. So I was like, slightly jumping the gun there, Scott, maybe. But I do see what he means. She has got a whole raft of potential. And, if you've got Hanan, who I harp on every single episode about how damn good Hanan is, despite her terrible new theme. If you're listening,
how dare you, sir?
If you are listening, Stardom, how dare you? How dare you? We've been robbed.
Proud there, people at Stardom do listen to this podcast. Again, this Friday, as this episode drops for on the normal feed, is when the new president takes over. So maybe that might be the first change he does, buddy. He's on their own feedback.
Okay, but I will say, I don't want to say that all of this negativity coincides with Hanan's theme changing, but it does.
Wow.
So
So you think all these rapid injuries and the kind of head scratching booking that's been going on is all because of Hanan's theme, and it just subconsciously has just turned, some of the positives into some of the negatives. That's what you're putting it on, like kind of like something like in a Doctor Strange like comic book, like out of Steve Ditko and Stan Lee in the 70s, huh?
I don't want to point fingers, Matt, but it's hard not to draw these conclusions. The fact that we are going to see Hanan raise the red belt one day, and she is going to raise that red belt one day, and I can't wait for that day. And the fact that the moment she raises it, we're not going to hear Hanan, Hanan, is just, it honestly tears me up inside. So I hope you're happy, Stardom. Moving on.
What were we talking about?
I can't remember. Moving on a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about the Scandinavian Hurricane, Alice Inc., because obviously I was under the impression that she was in Stardom for just one shot, effectively, that UWF rules match with Shuri, and she seems to be carrying on. And I just wanted to ask you, Matt, obviously I saw a match with Tekla at Korakuen Hall, and obviously we've had the match with Saya Ida, and then I believe she had a match with Ruaka, I think, and then Hanako. How do you think she did? How do you think she's sort of fitting in with the Stardom roster? Because I would argue that Saya Ida is the more experienced of the trio of people she took on before Korakuen. Do you think this was the better of the three matches? How do you think her offense hits as primarily an MMA fighter or someone who's sort of channeling that? How do you think it's gone? Because I know that you are obviously very into the UWF and UWFI rules.
I've never seen her wrestle before that match with Shuri. And, Shuri's one of my favorite, wrestlers, not just in Stardom, but overall. And as soon as that match happened, the UWFI match, the last pay-per-view, I quickly tweeted out, I was like, boy, I would love to. I agree with you, partner. I thought it was just a one shot. They were bringing her in, hyper in, just for Shuri to beat in a UWF match, which is fine because it gives Alice Inc., huge exposure. And as soon as that match was over, I tweeted out, I said, this was my favorite of the UWF style matches. The Konami ones were great. The Mina ones I really enjoyed, but this was my favorite. And I would love to see her in Stardom more. Well, sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, they announced these matches. And I think she's been absolutely fantastic. I thought the Ruaka match was really good. The Hanako match was a little bit better than the Ruaka match, just because you have that size, right? You have a bigger target for somebody of the striking and the base of what Alice Inc. does. The Saida match out of the three were my favorite for a couple of reasons. One, folks, it's Saida. If you listen to this podcast enough, you know that it's the Stardom Cast, a.k.a. the Saida Appreciation Podcast. And Saida, Rob, I'm not sure if you know this, hits really, really hard. Alice Inc. is an MMA fighter, and they hit really, really hard. So, again, you don't need any crazy lucha libre style psychology here. It's just two people going out there, hitting each other really hard. Simple stuff that everybody can understand that Saida does. Not only does Saida hit really hard, she feeds really well for strikes. And her feeding the stuff for Alice Inc. was great. I like how Alice Inc. uses like that quick snap hurricanrana, which is kind of like you see her offense, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But then she uses that to create distance and then quickly close the gap to get into some of her strikes. And I really like the finish here, how she hit a tornado DDT. And then as Saida popped up for the sell, she went right back down with a brutal head kick. I really like that combination of moves back to back for finishers of Alice Inc. I think she's great. I hope we see her in Stardom. I don't know how long the tour is. I don't know if she's here just for, a couple shows, if they're going to have her up until the end of the year. I hope to see Alice Inc. in Stardom on a more full-time basis because I think she's great. And I know I sound like a broken record. You're only going to get better wrestling in Stardom because you're wrestling with the best roster in all of wrestling. So I'm excited to see where she goes from here. Hopefully they keep her in for, 5, 6, 7, 8 months because I'm thoroughly impressed and a big fan.
Well, you saw what happened with Mariah May. I mean, the improvement she made in 9 months was absolutely astronomical. And now, of course, she's on AEW. And I'm not saying for a moment that she used Stardom as a sort of platform and a sort of jumping off point, but I think that work in Stardom helped her improve hugely, helped her improve massively. I hope the same for Alice Inc. because she's got a really good core set of moves. And same as you, I really enjoyed the Hanako match more than I thought I would. and I really enjoyed the Sayarida match. The Ruaka match was okay. Ridiculous as it sounds, I actually probably enjoyed the Tekla match least of all four, which, again, I didn't think I would say. But overall, dismisses Sayarida with the high kick, which is to be expected because, unfortunately, everyone seems to pin Sayarida. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that later on. The team of Hanan and Nanai Takahashi, Matt. I mentioned earlier that it was the team I didn't know I wanted. And now I want them tagging all the time. Because genuinely, the chemistry that they have together worked so well. And I don't understand why. I loved it. It's the most I've liked. I mean, since obviously the last Passion Injection match, which, again, for me, is the best work Nanai has done since she's been back. But this is up there as the most invested I've been in Nanai Takahashi, teaming with Hanan in a one-off match.
I want to ask you a quick question, my friend. Do you think this was supposed to be Hanan and Mayu, and just with Mayu's injury, that they were like, we need to substitute somebody in? It's like, we'll bring Nanai in. Everybody's great. She's great for the locker room. She's a vet. Everybody in this match is going to learn. Do you think this is supposed to be Mayu and Hanan versus Tor and Ruaka?
Well, looking at the remainder of the cards and seeing that Nanai isn't on them, I imagine that was probably the case, yeah. However, they've captured lightning and a ball with it. I thought it was great. Really, really fun. And actually, it was probably my second favourite match on the card.
I agree with you that they're fantastic together. But if you take a step back, let's break it down. Nanai's great and Hanan's great. So why wouldn't they be great together? It's just like, I didn't know that they would be this good. Rob, pump the brakes a little because no offense to Nanai and Hanan, I'd rather the Mayu and Hanan team. This was good, but if we're looking for possible opponents for the Goddess of Stardom title at the end of the year for Dream Queendom, obviously we'll get into it a little bit later, I would love an AphroditE versus Eye Contact match. That's just me. But if now Rob is going to sway the booking of giving us now an AphroditE versus the Nanai Hanan match, hey, so be it. So,
To be fair, we are without Mayu at the moment. What better time to do it? And especially if at the moment they seem to be easing Saya and Utami back in with tag stuff. I say easing them in. And then you watch Saya throwing herself off the top rope at Korakuen and Utami being suplexed all over the place by Megan Bayne. Clearly not taking it that lightly, but just think of the run that they could have. You could quite easily do Hanan and Nanai versus AphroditE whilst you're still waiting for Mayu to heal up, and then have your Icon team versus AphroditE once Mayu Iwatani is back. That way, you've got two fantastic matches. And actually, what you could do is if you remember a couple of years ago when Himika was going after the Goddess of Stardom belts, and she would lose with multiple partners, and then she'd eventually team with Micah, and they won it before Budokan. She could do that, so she could challenge for the belts with Nanai Takahashi, fail against AphroditE, if it's going to be AphroditE who take the belts, spoilers, and then challenge again with Mayu, and maybe win the belts there, because I know Mayu did an interview. It sort of got lost in the shuffle because of Giulia's interview, where she said a whole lot of things because it's Mayu, but one of them was that she wants to win the Goddess of Stardom tag titles with Hanan because she makes her feel young. And I think that's a good story, and especially if you've got AphroditE as the champions, what better team to chase than AphroditE? And again, the more time Hanan spends in the ring with the like of Utami and Nanai and Saya and Mayu, the better she's going to get.
Yeah, Mayu makes her feel young. Mayu's 29. Like, come on, Mayu. You're young. You're young. That's a good point. You have Hanan maybe team with Nanai, Hanan team with Mayu, but you're forgetting about two other partners Hanan can team with. Obviously, Saida is part of Wingori, and the other person she should team with to chase these tag belts?
Go on.
The human Cadillac, Dorian DeVille. Got it in.
Dream Queendom main event. Sod the red belt.
Tokyo Dome main event, brother. That's fun.
That's true.
let's think big here, brother. Let's, our goal here is to have as many people watch Stardom as possible. And that's, Dream Queendom, what's that, 4,000, 5,000 people? We're going for 71,000 at the Tokyo Dome, brother.
How could I be so short-sighted? How could I be so short-sighted? It's a great match, though. Go and check it out. Megan Bayne and Suzu Suzuki. Now, I enjoyed this match. I enjoyed her other singles match considerably more. And we are going to be talking about that match because that match slaps with a capital S. This was good, but I feel like it was sort of a precursor to the match that she would then have with Giulia in a couple of days' time.
Megan Bayne's putting on some bangers. When she first came in, obviously we'll get into the match with Giulia. First came in, she was basically booked like as if she's like Hawk or Animal, like our Bruiser Brody, just coming in, just running through people. And it makes sense because she was something different, just running through people, almost like squashes to build her up for a match with Tam. And we didn't know what to expect in that match. And it went out and I'm like, wow, this was an absolute banger. Like, I think I had like 4.25, 4.5 stars. And then she teams with Micah, and they pretty much run through everybody. And don't get me wrong, they have really good matches, but they were booked very much, again, like the Road Warriors, just running through everybody. And then you get to that finals match against Crazy Star, and it was like, I thought it was the best match from the tournament, which was a really, despite the injuries, the Goddess of Stardom tag tournament, a few months ago, was a really good tournament. I had it as my favorite match of the whole tournament. I thought it was great. And then she's putting on bangers here with Suzu. She's putting on bangers with Giulia. It looks like they're going to probably run that Giulia match back sometime soon, as well as they should, because it's garnering a lot of buzz. And then again, obviously spoilers for the pay-per-view on Saturday, as it's listed on the website. She's in the main event, her and Micah versus AphroditE. That's going to be an absolute banger as well. So I really like everything Megan Bayne is doing here. Again, she's coming in as a complete monster. She has those little funny comedy bits with May Sarah, which I think was great. But then when it comes down to have like a 4.25 star match, she can pretty much do it with anybody in the roster. And it's really nice to see that somebody that she's completely different on this loaded roster of Stardom. So yeah, really excited to see what's going to happen with Megan Bayne from the future coming on out, my friend, because again, this match with Suzu was great. The match with Giulia was great. Again, there's a possibility they're going to run that match with Giulia back sometime soon. At least the way that it looked like to me they were building towards something. And then again, that this tag match we have coming up on Saturday, I'm really, really looking forward to.
So, okay, let fancy booking hats on for a moment.
Oh,
if you are Stardom and you've got Megan Bayne, who has been pinned once since she came into Stardom. And she put on a good match with Tam, a good match with Suzu, fantastic match with Giulia. You want to run that Giulia Megan Bayne match back. It makes sense if you're going to do that. Obviously, we haven't got a considerable amount of shows left in the year. Should Giulia beat Azumi on Saturday, would you then have Megan Bayne come out and challenge Giulia for the New Japan Openweight Strong Women's Super Duper Women's Open Woman Championship?
Yes, I would, my friend. I would. And I mentioned it last week when I talked about Mirai and Mirai and Sayoriano. When you have a match that's that good, that has a time limit draw, it's fresh in everybody's mind. It's got buzz. Everybody's talking about it. You can run it back. And we really don't know, what Giulia is going to be doing between really, you can run that match with Megan Bayne back at Dream Queendom, depending on what to do with Giulia, or the anniversary show, or some big Korakuen show, at the beginning of the new year. I mean, this match is getting a lot of buzz. In my opinion, it's been the best Megan Bayne match, singles or tag, since she's been in, and she's had some really, really good matches. And I think her and Giulia's style, they just mesh really well. Giulia is the dangerous queen. She throws some haymakers, with the fists, the headbutts, the forearms, the knees, and obviously has a really strong arsenal of submissions and drop on your head type moves, where Megan Bayne is just an absolute monster. And they just beat the tar out of each other, especially that closing like 80 to 90 seconds was like, you're just like, I want to see more of this. When can I see more of this? And how do I pay for it? And I think a lot of people had that coming, and I think had the same thought process as I did. And I think Stardom sees that, and I think, hey, it's fresh in everybody's minds. let's find a way to run this back and run it back hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, that's where I would go again. But though Azumi's talking about, she already has plans for this New Japan Strong Championship, that she wants to tour America for a little bit, like how Giulia has done with the New Japan Strong Championship. So it's not written in the books just yet that Giulia is going to come out on Saturday with that purple belt, buddy.
No, that is very true. And of course, it's pro wrestling. Anything could happen. But in honesty, in your opinion, obviously, Giulia, one of the biggest stars Stardom have. And Dream Queendom is the most consistent show we've had from Stardom, name-wise and, placement-wise. It's been on the 29th of December for the last 3 years. Name's been the exact same. Do you think, first of all, say that Giulia retains, and we haven't talked about the Suzuki match. It's a good match. Go and check it out. But say that Megan Bayne does challenge. Do you think that is a big enough match for Giulia at Ryogoku? And that's no disrespect to Megan Bayne whatsoever, because this match absolutely bangs and is, in my opinion, the best Giulia match in a while. So full credit must go to Megan Bayne. But is that a tasty sumo hall matchup, or do you run it as the main event of year-end climax on Christmas Eve?
Ooh, that's a great question. Or you have a New Blood show on Christmas Day. There's a possibility you run that on Christmas Day as well, because back in the 80s and early 90s, a lot of NWA and WWE, WWF would run on Christmas Day because you give the ticket as a Christmas present if you live local. What do you open the presents up at night? Or in the morning? What are you going to do at night? Go see the wrestling. So that's a possibility. You could run it on the 24th. You can run it on the 25th. Or you can run it at Queendom. And I understand it's like, okay, Giulia had at last year's Dream Queendom had one of the best matches in Stardom history with Sherry, for the World of Stardom Championship. So what do you do a year later? Is Megan Bayne a big enough star? That's a great question, my friend. I definitely want to see this match again. I'm not alone in that. I think everybody does.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Do you do it at Queendom? Does Stardom give that spot to Megan Bayne? We're saying, okay, you've had a fantastic time since you were here. You've obviously proven yourself. Here you go. You're going to get Giulia, one of, if not our biggest star. Giulia, obviously, a lot of buzz speculating on her, where she's going to be in 8 to 10 months from now, which is obviously we've talked about. At your, pretty much your second biggest show of the year, your biggest show at this, to go into 2024. Do you have Giulia, your biggest star, going up against Megan Bayne, who up until she debuted on night one of the 5-star, I had no idea who she was, but at the same time has done nothing but hit home run after home run after home run? I say, why the hell not, Rob? I mean, look at what the main event more than likely is going to be for Sumo Hall. You're trying new things, and it's making things exciting. So, if this show at the end of the year, we're trying new things up on the main event because we want to push new ideas and new people and give wrestlers a chance to prove themselves. Megan Bayne's proven herself, and that if they're going to run this back on a big paper, this match was that good, that good on a quote-unquote house show, how much better is it going to be on one of your biggest shows of the year for the New Japan Strong Championship in front of around 3,000 people on pay-per-view? I say, what the hell? Go for it. Go for it.
You're absolutely right. It was more a hypothetical question, because if you look at the Dream Queendom cards that have gone past, they haven't been afraid of, putting bigger names down the card. I mean, Mayu Iwatani has been in 2 multi-woman tags. So, they're not afraid of going, right, well, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I'd love to see Amisori in a prominent position on that Dream Queendom card. I don't think it's going to happen because there's simply too much to do. Of course, we still need a white belt challenger for Mirai, whether they do run back Mirai versus Soriano at Dream Queendom. I mean, that would be a really interesting top 3 matches, wouldn't it? If you think the top 3 matches for this year's Dream Queendom could be potentially Maika versus Suzuki, for the red belt. Mirai versus Soriano for the white belt. And Giulia versus Megan Bayne for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. That's 3 really different matchups. And then you think that you've still got Mayu, you've still got AphroditE, you've still got Momo Watanabe, you've still got Starlight Kid, you've still got Hazuki, Mina, Amisori, Syuri, who don't have a match on that card. That would be a tasty, tasty card. I'm really intrigued, especially if Aphrodite are your tag champs by this point, which, spoilers, I do think they will be. This card is shaping up really, really well. If that's where they go. I mean, they might throw a complete curveball and call a white belt. What's the word I'm looking for? Call an audible and just say, do you know what? It's time for Mirai versus our Lord and Savior Fukigen Death. 4 minutes. Bish, bash, bosh.
It'd
Imagine.
have to be a 3-way. It'd be a 3-way, then Fukigen Death gets the roll up, and then she's your new white belt champion. But yeah, I mean, real quick, but just to kind of, because you're talking about the white belt scenario, it's really easy. All you do obviously there's a load of shows coming up over the next few weeks. You can literally just have Mina come out and be like, "Hey, Mirai, I beat you in the 5-star. Everybody that's beaten you in the 5-star, they all have had championship opportunities. I never got mine. I don't think I had a fair shake, or I wasn't focused after I won the Wonder of Stardom Championship. I want my crack again. Bing, bang, boom. All good to go. You know, give me Mirai versus Mina Shirakawa."
I'm just looking at that rundown of shows that we've just done. And I know it's not the full cards, but I can't see Mirai and Mina interacting too much. But again, this is only up to the 10th, so, you know, there's plenty of time.
Press conference, brother. Have you never seen a Stardom press conference?
That is
All
true.
Stuff goes crazy.
That's true. However, if, as you say, if people from Stardom do potentially listen to this podcast, then I'm going to put my hat in the ring and ask for Hazuki to be in that white belt match. Because if I don't shoot my shot, then it's never going to happen. So let's move on to the 25th. I feel like we've already talked a lot about the matches on these 2 cards, but we'll run through them anyway. The show from Saitama on the 25th of November in the Sayama Citizens General Gymnasium. 301 people on this card. We started with a singles match. Amisori defeating Yuzuki in 8 minutes and 22 seconds with a pinfall reversal. She then went back-to-back defeating Hanako in 5 minutes and 54 seconds with a blue thunder bomb. In a tag team match then, Wingori got the pinfall victory. Hanan and Saya over the Queen's Quest team of Hina and Miya Wamasaki. Hanan pinning her sister Hina with the blockbuster in 8 minutes and 59 seconds. As we've talked about, singles match, the Scandinavian Hurricane Alice Inc. defeated Ruaka in 6 minutes and 41 seconds with the high kick. In a tag team match, the team of Mirai and Syuri defeated the team of Megan Bayne and Yuna Mizumori. Mirai pinning Yuna with the lariat in 12 minutes and 6 seconds. And then in your main event, the Donna Del Mondo team of Giulia, Maika, and Mei Sakurai defeated the Uedatai team of Natsukatora, Rina, and Starlight Kid, with Maika pinning Rina in 16 minutes and 6 seconds with the Michinoku Driver 2. I know we've already talked about Alice Inc. We've already talked about, you know, the matches and how she's doing. I want to talk a little bit about 2 of these matches in particular. The card's solid enough, but I want to talk a little bit about Yuna Mizumori because I think she is someone that we don't necessarily talk about a lot. And I think she was put in a match here with both Mirai and Syuri and Megan Bayne and did not feel out of place. We talked about Amisori being improved. We talked about Mei Sakurai being improved. Yuna Mizumori has to be in that conversation as well.
Folks, if you follow me on Twitter, I sing Yuna Mizumori's praises all the time. I think she's the most improved wrestler in all of wrestling in 2023. I think she's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's why. I don't follow you on Twitter, Matt. That's why.
Wow. Unbelievable. I'll tell you what a harper. He probably even said something rude to me yesterday. So something around the lines of like, I think I said something around that you're like, oh, well, this person likes you, and this person likes you. And I said, well, I try to be easy to get along with you. Like, yeah, I didn't notice. I was like, oh, how dare you? You think you're hanging around my wife too much. Just put me down, brother. I kid. Yeah, Yuna's been absolutely great here. And someone even mentioned to me with Sayori and Natsupoi vacating the titles that don't you think like Sayori should have a partner and go after, whoever comes out on the second as the tag champs? Don't you think she should get a title shot with a partner of her choosing? And it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago that they had Sayori and Yuna Mizumori kind of as a makeshift team in these, quote unquote house shows. And they're absolutely fantastic. They were low key like the best matches of like the month, non pay per view. And Sayori and Yuna were great. And I would, again, if AphroditE do come out this weekend as tag champs, I would love to see AphroditE versus Sayori versus Yuna Mizumori. I think those would be fantastic matches. But Yuna was great here. Obviously, you see the graphic. You know that Megan Bayne is not eating the L. You know they're keeping Mariah and Cherry strong. So you know where you're going. Like, we know the destination, but the journey to get there was absolutely fantastic because, yeah, Yuna did not feel out of place at all. And again, I kind of talked about Megan Bayne's kind of comedic timing that I don't even know if she knows she has. So, of course, Yuna just gets destroyed with this lariat from Mariah. She gets the 3 count. Yuna rolls the outside. Megan Bayne just picks up Yuna, puts her on her shoulders, looks at the camera, and then marches right back to the locker room. That was great. Like, I know she's not going for this comedy thing, but just what she did there and what she does all the time at May Sarah, just great. Just another wrinkle in the game of Megan Bayne. But again, Yuna Mizumori is absolutely fantastic, and she's another one to watch out for in 2024.
Yeah, completely agree. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Wingori team, simply because I just want to talk about Hanan and Sayarida a little bit more. Hina, again, is someone we don't see very often and is someone who is overlooked in Queen's Quest because she's not on the roster as much because of schooling and things like that. But I thought, again, she had a really, really good showing alongside Miyu Amasaki.
Hina missing shows because of school. Jeez, Rob, we can do a whole thing on this. What an excuse. Says to the former school teacher. Anywho. Yeah, this was great. And I just want to correct you, partner. About a minute ago, you said that Hana won this match over Hina with a blockbuster. It was actually the Hana special that she hit onto Hina. But yes, this was great. And again, we said this before. When it comes to New Blood tag titles, they should be defending them on these shows. Just like there's no reason why this could not have been a New Blood tag team championship match. You get your defenses up. It puts another wrinkle in the match. It might help sell a couple more tickets. You can literally just do the same match. It's a great match that went around 9 minutes. And Hina and Miyu Amasaki, they wrestle on a lot of the New Blood shows as well. So I just think they should be having these. It doesn't have to be a New Blood show to have a title defense. Regardless, this was great. Hana's great. Saeed is great. And again, we talk about we sing Hana's praises all the time. She teams up great with Saeed as part of Wingori. The eye contact team with her and Mayu is terrific. They throw in Nanai Takahashi, who's been wrestling longer than Hana's been on this earth, and gels really well there. Just goes to show you at 19 years old how good Hana is, not only in a singles role, but a tag role. And it doesn't matter who you team her with because she just gels so well with her partners and opponents as well. And again, Hina and Miyu Amasaki, they're kind of on the lower tier of my favorite faction in all of wrestling, Queen's Quest. But they gelled really well together, too. And there are another 2 wrestlers that are really, really improving on this roster. I love this match. I thought this was great. I actually had a 3.5 stars, partner.
Yeah, really, really, really good match. Really good match. Let's move on then to the last show before Korakuen, which was the Stardom in Koriyama show. 26th of November in Fukushima Big Palette, to be exact. 523 people in attendance, and the card and results are as follows. Hina defeated Yuzuki in 8 minutes and 8 seconds with the Rabuka. Starlight Kid defeated Miyu Amasaki with the Black Tiger Leg Killer. That was a really good match, by the way. You should go and check that one out. The Scandinavian Hurricane Alice Inc. defeated Hanako in 7 minutes and 35 seconds. The Cross Arm Breaker. Oh, sorry, I got hiccups. Donna Del Mondo team of Micah and May Sakurai defeated the Stars team of Hanan and Sayarida in 6 minutes and 55 seconds when Sayarida got pinned after the diving elbow drop. Giulia and Megan Bayne, which we've already talked about, went to a time limit draw, 15 minutes. Absolutely go out of your way to check this match out. It is the match of the 3 cards that I would highly recommend you going to see. And then in your main event, Amisori, Mirai, and Fury of God's Eye defeated the AphroditE team of Tora, Rina, and Ruaka, with Amisori again getting the pinfall in 17 minutes and 47 seconds with the like a lightning bolt. A couple of things to note from this. They built Amisori up so well ahead of this Korakuen. She felt like a genuine threat. Starlight Kid and Miyu Amasaki, God, I've missed Starlight Kid, and I cannot wait for her to get pushed higher up the card. She's my early pick for the Cinderella tournament. Even though it's not really a heel tournament, I still think she could go all the way and get that white belt shot there. And again, Giulia and Megan Bayne, go out of your way to see it. It is an extremely good match. In a year when Giulia has had a lot of good matches, this might be one of the best, Matt.
Yeah, this was absolutely fantastic. I want to touch upon, we'll talk about Giulia and Megan Bayne in a second. I just kind of want to get your opinion on something. Mai Sakurai with this diving elbow. Do you think, because she's got that big hat, do you think when she wears that hat, that now she's got more power, like in her elbow, very much like Professor Xavier when he puts on the helmet for Cerebro, right? And all of a sudden he can get in tune with all the mutants across this universe and any universe, and it makes him more powerful when he puts on the Cerebral helmet. Do you think, yes, folks, and if you had a Professor Xavier and Mai Sakurai cross-reference on your Stardom Cast bingo card, you win. Do you think when she puts on these hats, she gets more power, especially into her elbow?
I thought you were talking about simply because of the weight of the thing and just adding more weight to her so that she crushes people. Yes, absolutely. I feel like, to be perfectly honest, many do call Mai Sakurai the Charles Xavier of Stardom. I've heard it mentioned many times, if I'm being perfectly honest. But like, it's still not very good. Like, Mai Sakurai's improved so much. Her character is fantastic. She was getting a lot of cheers at Korakuen. That Korakuen crowd, by the way, we will talk about it, was absolutely phenomenal. And she was getting a really good reception. But that elbow drop still sucks. It really does.
I just realized I think I might have just called her Mai Sarah. That's how messed up I am.
Mai Sarah.
Mai Sakurai. Jeez, I apologize if I did, but yes, Mai Sakurai is the Charles Xavier of Stardom.
But there you are. Again, Starlight Kid and Miyu Amasaki, the styles meshed really well. And even though it was sort of a given that Starlight Kid was going to win this match, I thought Miyu Amasaki again put forward a really good showing for herself. Do you think, well, not even do you think, I think it's fair to say that Starlight Kid, even without the injury, hasn't had the most productive of years, especially when you consider how we thought this was going to be like the breakout year for her. Do you think 2024 has more in store for Starlight Kid?
Yeah, I think so. Especially, I believe tomorrow we're going to be doing the recording for the alternate commentary versus her and Saya Kamatani for the Wonder of Stardom Championship last year. And it really seemed because she was ever so close in that match. And then she went on, she had a really good 5-star in 2022. And then she just ate a whole bunch of L's in the tournament. And again, there was a lot of injuries going on. They had to reshuffle, and they thought maybe that mathematically that was the only thing that made sense for her, was to her eat a lot of defeats. Then she comes back and she eats another L to Azumi in that 3-way with her and Suzu Suzuki. But it made sense. You want to keep Suzu strong for the end of the year. You're keeping Azumi strong for the challenge for Giulia. So I think right now it's kind of just like, let's pull Starlight Kid back a little from getting the wins, and then we'll push her back up the card. Obviously, she's putting on great matches. Again, that 3-way with her and Azumi. Suzu Suzuki from last week was great. This match at Miyu Amasaki was terrific. She's starting to get some of these wins on these, quote-unquote house shows. But, I can see her getting up in line for a big push for next year, especially when considering the fact, the beginning of this year, she basically said that she's graduating from the high-speed division. She put Azumi over again in Triangle Derby final night. So you kind of figured, okay, here comes Starlight Kid's big push, where she might be challenging again for the Wonder of Stardom Championship or for the World of Stardom Championship. And that never really happened. And, again, we kind of don't know why. Again, maybe because of the injuries of everything going on in the 5-star, things had to be reshuffled. But I'm excited to see. I mean, nobody can deny how talented she is. She's one of the most talented wrestlers, not just in Stardom, but in all of wrestling. You know, she is so good, and she's literally one small angle away of becoming one of the top baby faces in Stardom. And it's really hard to boo her, even though she's part of the only major heel faction in Stardom in a Oedo Tai, but she's just so charismatic. She's so good in the ring. She's so flawless in what she does that, again, even though she's supposed to be a heel, everybody just kind of cheers her because she's great in the ring. Similar to, you know, when Io turned on Mayu back in 2017, that it was like, or 16, excuse me. It was like, you can't boo her because she's so good. It's kind of akin there. But yeah, answer your question. I think Starlight Kid is going to have a huge run in 2024. Whether she's going to win the Cinderella tournament, I don't know. I think that'd be a cool look, you know, with the gown and the crown on the mask. Could be something different, you know. It's sell a lot of 8x10s, brother. So we'll see, my friend. But I'm excited because Starlight Kid's one of my favorites.
Let's pardon me. Let's move on because I want to talk a little bit about this Korakuen show. And Matt, as a gift to you, my friend.
Oh,
I am going to summarize it. I'm going to read out the results in a moment, and then I'm going to summarize my thoughts. And what I want you to do, and I want you at home to listen and play along as well, I want you to tell me what band I am referencing throughout my references. Wait until the end to tell me.
Okay.
And if you can, count how many references I've made. Will run through the results first, though. Tuesday, 28th of November, Korakuen Hall, 1,117 people. I think Stardom needed a good attendance for this show after sort of a lackluster week, and which sort of was epitomised by the poor draw of that Korakuen Hall show. A big draw here. Obviously, you had the one-night tournament and you had the return of AphroditE. This goes to show that just give the people something. Doesn't have to be a red belt match. Doesn't even have to be a white belt match. Just give them something. Because if you treat Korakuen Hall like any other venue, you know, like, no offense, but Fukushima Big Palette or whatever, then it doesn't feel special and people will stop coming and your attendances will start dropping. And I think that's where Korakuen was going. However, if you're main eventing your Korakuen Hall show with a 15, 16, 17-minute Goddess of Stardom title match, or a fantastic Artist of Stardom title match, 2021, Stardom had it nailed because the Artist of Stardom title match headlined it, I think, something like 6 times when Tam, Mina, and Unagi held the belts, and they were putting on great matches. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to reserve some of those title matches for the Korakuen Hall show. Still make the Korakuens worth watching. Don't negate them don't neglect them just because we're now running bigger venues for pay-per-views, especially if you are only running one pay-per-view a month. Use Korakuen as that second big show of the month. Now, I'm not saying go all out and make it pay-per-view worthy, but, you know, just put a title match on that card or put a high-profile singles match on that card. Make people want to tune into the Korakuen Hall shows because, as proved by here, you know, we've gone up significantly with the tournament. I think even without AphroditE's return, they'd have gone up because of the stakes. But even so, that has to be a draw, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really seems like they did really well here. Again, they drew over 1,100 people. And again, you still had no Tam, no Mayu. Excellent draw. Again, from what when we had some of our listeners that were at the show, they said the atmosphere, and you saw majority of the show, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. They said the atmosphere was absolutely electric. You know, I heard that Micah came across as a huge star. So anybody second guessing, you know, having Micah in the main event of one of your biggest shows of the year, from what I understand, all the doubters will be silenced once they watch this show. Korakuen Hall is kind of like their unofficial home It's always where you can kind of project, who's over, who's not over. And again, this show dropped just this morning as us recording. Rob is going to kind of run through everything. What I'm going to do, just so we're not waiting for a full week of my review, and the fact that our YouTube show is ever growing, is that after I watch this show, probably today, sometime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to video record myself giving just a quick rundown of the show, and then I'm going to throw it up on our YouTube channel. So that'll probably be up either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, give or take. So you will have my results. I'll kind of run through everything. I'll give the Stardom star rating, but I just don't want to wait for another week. So look for that on our YouTube channel coming up sometime in the next few days.
So the card itself, and I just want to shout out Armani Shoe Exchange, our good friend on Twitter, who pointed out that, yes, Stardom has had a lot of issues with injuries. However, this card featured 30 wrestlers and a pre-show match. So clearly the roster is still quite deep. So we started with Rina defeating Yuzuki in 9 minutes and 25 seconds with the diving double knee drop. Fukigen Death pinned Hina in 4 minutes and 6 seconds with the O'Connor roll. Saori Anou defeated Hanako and Miyu Amasaki in a three-way battle, pinning Hanako with the Hurricane Rana in 7 minutes and 24 seconds. 6-person tag team match next. The AphroditE team of Natsukatora, Ruaka, and Starlight Kid defeated the Stars team of Hazuki, Hanan, and Saya Ida, with Tora pinning Saya Ida with the Death Valley Bomb in 7 minutes and 49 seconds. In the World of Stardom Championship Tournament first round, Momo Watanabe defeated Mina Shirakawa in 9 minutes and 56 seconds with the Peach Sunrise. In the other first round matchup, Maika defeated Amisori in 9 minutes and 26 seconds with the Michinoku Driver 2. We then had a double countout between Tekla and the Scandinavian Hurricane Alice Inc. In 8 minutes and 19 seconds. In your third from the top, we had a tag match. Mirai and Saori defeated Mei Sakurai and Giulia, with Mirai pinning Mei Sakurai with the Lariat in 9 minutes and 1 second. We then had the AphroditE return match. The Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani, Azumi, and Utami Hayashishita went to a 15-minute time limit draw with Megan Bayne, Mei Seira, and Suzu Suzuki. And then in your main event, Maika defeated Momo Watanabe in 14 minutes and 33 seconds. Michinoku Driver 2. She will be in the main event of Sumo Hall, December 29th, Dream Queendom, to face either Suzu Suzuki or Hazuki. Overall, a fantastic card. And before I go into my little summary, the reaction to Saya and Utami's names being read out was nuclear. And it's worth pointing out that this Korakuen crowd were hot for everything. It was a fantastic crowd and really did go to show why Korakuen Hall is just one of those venues. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment of truth. What I'd like you to do if you're at home, listening, not if you're driving, I would like you to see if you can write down and guess A, which band I'm referencing in my very quick recap, and if you can pick out any songs or how many songs that I'm referencing. Matt, are you ready?
Hold on, my pen writes. Here we go. Let's go, brother.
Let's do this. So, Hina drew the shortest straw when she was pitted against Fukigen Death, losing by a roll-up so quick it wouldn't surprise me if she got whiplash. Saori Anou unsurprisingly pinned Hanako with the Hurricane Rana, her limbs flailing as though she was trapped under ice. Hazuki, Hanan, and Sayurida and Starlight Kid, Tora, and Ruaka had a hard-hitting affair, which isn't hard to believe. Hazuki is hardwired to obliterate all in her path and cause as much damage, as possible. Unfortunately, it's sad but true that Sayurida must eat the pin. Momo and Mina beat the motor breath out of each other. And honestly, I'd say this has been the most I've been entertained by Momo since her turn. Her matches are absolutely killer. Mina was attacked by AphroditE throughout the match, but she made out to kill them all and choosing to fight fire with fire. Also, killer promo from Mina afterwards that they posted on Twitter. It's properly like her Hiroshima one, where she's crying through a mouthful of blood. This is great. I think someone's put subtitles over it as well, so if you can, go and check it out, because it proper plays into this whole Mina arc, which is great. She fought from underneath as though nothing else mattered, but ultimately it is the end of the line for Mina. Ami Sourei attacked Maika before the bell rang, as though she had Saint Anger round her neck. The strength she showed to turn over Maika on her shoulders was incredible, like some kind of monster. Maika, however, feels like the one, and comes out of this show as the hero of the day, closely followed by Sayaka Mitani and Momo. Ami Sourei did herself proud, but ultimately couldn't quite get the job done. At least her memory will remain. Welcome home, Saya and Utami. Incredible reaction as their names are announced. Utami's under pressure from Megan Bayne. Is she too far gone? Bayne, on a mission to seek and destroy after 2 time limit draws, was able to suplex all 3 members of Queen's Quest at once. But Utami is able to then do it to Megan Bayne, showing no remorse. There's a brief exchange between Saya and Suzu, which is absolutely tremendous. Though she did say she was going to tone the offense down, imagine my surprise when she goes to a dive to the outside. She must be at the frayed ends of her sanity. This is followed by AphroditE challenging for the tag belts. The thought of main eventing Sumo Hall is enough to fuel the fire of Maika to go blow for blow with Momo. They unleash an absolute battery of offense on each other. However, when we fade to black, Maika is in her rightful place, at the top of the Sumo Hall card. Now, Mr. Matt Turner, what band was I referencing?
It's either Prince or NSYNC. Would I be right?
Absolutely. NSYNC.
Clearly one of my second favorite band of all time, Metallica. That was fantastic, my friend. That was terrific. That that was great, my man. Let me see if I got all the. I'm assuming that I'm right. It's Metallica, correct?
Of course.
Okay. Here's what I have. Let me see if I missed any. Are you ready, good sir?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Shortest straw, Whiplash,
Yep.
Trapped Under Ice, Hardwired, Damage Incorporated, Sad But True, Motor Breath, Kill 'Em All, Fight Fire with Fire, Nothing Else Matters, Saint Anger, Some Kind of Monster, 1, Hero of the Day, Memory Remains, Welcome Home, also known as Sanitarium, Too Far Gone, Seek and Destroy, No Remorse, Freight Ends of Sanity, Fuel, Battery, Fade to Black. What did I miss?
You missed 2. Which is quite impressive considering I read them at quite a significant pace.
What were they?
You missed The Memory Remains. And the End of the Line.
The End of the Line? What album's that off?
It's off Death Magnetic.
Oh, that's why.
There you go.
That's why. Oh, Memory Remains I should have got, though. That was excellent, my friend. Great job. Yes, we know that per your Judas Priest references from last week, we got quite a buzz from listeners all over the world that absolutely loved it. So as usual, folks, that anytime a bit gets over, we have to run it back. Very much like the Bipoi or Rob getting really hot over Hanan's new theme or the Human Cadillac, Dorian DeVille. So we make sure we do a good job working them in. And Rob, not only was that a home run, that was a home run. And then you caught the home run, you ran back, and then you hit another home run with the ball you just caught. So that was one of the best segments in Stardom Cast history. Great job, Rob, brother. Bravo.
Thank you very much. I was very proud of myself. Now, in all seriousness, this card is fantastic. In terms of ratings, Maika and Ami Sourei, 4 stars. Really, really, really good match. Mina and Momo, 4 1/4. Again, I'm so entertained by Momo Watanabe at the moment. She's really, really coming into her own for the first time, probably since she attacked Azumi with that wrench in her boot. I've really enjoyed the Saya Kamitani, Azumi, and Utami match, simply because it's great to see them in the ring together, but also because it looks like Utami has not missed a beat. Saya Kamitani as well. That exchange with Suzu Suzuki, I want to see it again and again and again and again. It was Saya Kamitani who comes out on top as the match comes to its conclusion. She hits the Star Crusher on Suzu. So I do wonder how long it is before we propel Saya into that main event. And then Maika versus Momo Watanabe. The Stardom Twitter account did say that all 3 of these red belt tournament matches were red belt worthy. And I do agree.
Awesome.
Maika and Momo Watanabe, 4.5 stars. And yes, I might have some people going, that's very high. Honestly, I loved it. The crowd, the aura, Maika is so over. Yes, it's a Metallica song, but at the moment, Maika is the one. She really does feel that way. And if it is Suzu Suzuki who's going to beat Hazuki and be the one to face Maika, Stardom have got a very, very tough decision because both women are very over and I don't know who you put the belt on. But even so, Maika, MVP of this show. Amisori, fantastic showing. Really, really good. Momo, in fact, all 4 women in this tournament, as we knew they would, absolutely knocked this opportunity out of the park. Mina Shirakawa's promo, which I actively encourage you to go and check out after you've seen her match, is brilliant, bursting into floods of tears, lamenting the loss to Momo Watanabe, especially because it wasn't fair, because just randomly Tora just came in and gave her the Death Valley driver.
Oedetai's got Oedetei, brother.
Oedetei has got to Oedetei. I seriously do not understand how the referee does not see it, but there we are. Referees are blind. We know this. But yes, all matches really, really good. The only match that I was a little bit disappointed in was Tekla versus Alice Inc. And it just felt a little bit, I don't know, disjointed. And then the finish. Obviously, I know that you're keeping Tekla, or should I say Tekla? I know that you've got to keep Tekla hot because she's taking on Meisera at the pay-per-view. I know you've got to keep Alice Inc. hot because she's facing Nanai Takahashi at the pay-per-view. But, I don't know, the double count-out just didn't really work for me. But, you know, that happens. It's nothing against either woman. It just didn't really land for me personally. Before we preview the Nagoya Big Winter show, the 6-woman tag, the AphroditE return match, 4.25 stars as well.
Wow. The outfits, I've seen the outfits. I was retweeting them as if their star power between the two
I know
can't get any better. I was like, holy geez, what's the saying that you kids use nowadays? Poke evolved up. Is that what they did, Rob?
Poke evolved. They did indeed. Saya Kamitani genuinely she smiled the entire time. It was one of the most wholesome moments. She just got this nuclear reaction. And Utami did as well, but I don't know, I felt it more for Saya, and I think that's probably because Saya's been gone longer. But yeah, great to see 2 of the heavy hitters in Stardom back again. Matt,
how was Azumi? Azumi's one of my favorite wrestlers, and it's just like, you guys realize Azumi was in this match, right? How was everything that she did? Did she get lost in the shuffle at all, or was Azumi just being Azumi?
Azumi was being Azumi, and you know, Azumi's got a Azumi. You know, she does.
I guess it works with anybody.
It does. She works really well with whoever she's in the ring with. I thought she had, with the limited time she was in the ring with Megan Bayne, I thought she had really good chemistry with her. But ultimately, the focus in this match was Megan Bayne, Suzu Suzuki, Saya, Utami. Which makes sense when you think that AphroditE are going to be challenging Megan Bayne and Maika, who are not the tag champs, it's worth pointing out. They are not the tag champs, despite both holding belts. That was sort of the money. That was where they were focused, and rightly so. But it did mean that Azumi and Meisera was sort of, not necessarily pushed aside, but weren't the main focus of the match. Still a great match. Literally everything from the Oedetei and Stars tag match onwards is worth watching, and I highly recommend the card. It's up there as perhaps one of, if not the best non-pay-per-view card Stardom have put on.
Awesome. I can't wait to watch it.
Now, Matt, it's time, before we preview Nagoya Big Winter, for Io and Kairi watch.
Yes, Io and Kairi watch. Boy, they had a thing this weekend, did they not, sir? So we go to SmackDown the day before the pay-per-view, the day before Survivor Series, 11/24/2023. Really not much going on. It just basically sets up, they do a backstage segment that sets up Bayley and Asuka versus Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch when Bayley winds up pinning Becky Lynch. Again, saw enough match. There really wasn't too much with Io and Kyrie. But the big money, Rob Goodwin, was Survivor Series, War Games. And when you would have told me a handful of years ago that two of my favorite wrestlers ever, Kyrie and Io, would be in a War Games match coming out to my favorite band of all time, one Black Sabbath with Ozzy Osbourne, the true GOAT of any and all things relevant, singing that, that would be, that's something. That's something. It's really cool that you do have, the War Pigs from Black Sabbath is the theme to War Games and your opening match. And I was kind of thinking, I was wondering what was going to be the main event. Now, truth be told, I don't watch a lot of Monday Night Raw. It's not that I just don't enjoy the product. I just don't have the time. So I really wasn't sure how hot the men's War Games match was going to be. I think everything going on with Damage Control, especially these last 3 or 4 weeks, has been absolutely fantastic. We mentioned last week Io is drawing Io segments are doing well over 2 million views for SmackDown. So I thought there might have been a good chance that the women's match main evented the show. Truth be told, I was kind of hoping it would go on first just because I fall asleep very early because I get up very early. And I was happy that this match did start out. I thought it was a great start. They started this match out with Becky versus Bayley. So you have two of the four, horsewomen that are familiar with each other. So they get in there first. And then we don't see this much in the War Games. And I've seen every War Games match, not only the WWE style, the NXT style, but going back to the NWA and the Crockett's, where it just happens the heels happen to have the advantage for every War Games. What are the odds of that? But this was different. The baby faces have the advantage. Shotzi comes in next. I thought there was some really good stuff there. And then we get the champion. Io comes in, and she just takes over. She does the double springboard. She springboards from one side of the ropes to the other ropes to hit the dropkick onto Shotzi. I thought that was really good. Bianca Belair comes in, and for someone that has never wrestled outside of WWE, never had like the indie run or never wrestled in Japan or Mexico, Bianca, if I could have one wrestler in WWE that's never wrestled in Japan before come over to have a Stardom run, it would be Bianca Belair. And the reason why I said what I said is obviously I would love to have Io back. I would love to have Asuka have a Stardom run, but I would love to see Bianca Belair in Stardom. Can you imagine a Bianca versus Mayu match or Starlight Kid or Azumi? It'd be unbelievable. I think Bianca is one of the best wrestlers on this entire roster, but she comes in, she just absolutely kills her. The crowd goes absolutely nuts for her. Then we have Kyrie coming in, and as everybody, you can tell you're in a hardcore city. You know that you're in Chicago or Philly or New York City, one of these bloodthirsty cities, without knowing you're in one of these cities, just by everybody that comes out. They grab a weapon and they're chanting, "We want tables, we want tables." So it's like that, yeah. Kyrie comes out, and it looks like she's gonna. She gets a huge pop because she does her Kyrie march walk all the way down in the ring. And again, she's supposed to be a heel. She goes underneath the apron, and everybody's cheering, thinking Kyrie's going to get a table. She gets a trash can. And then all of a sudden, Kyrie, for 10 seconds, becomes the biggest heel in Chicago. And then she gets in there, and she's Kyrie. And this happens throughout everybody coming in. Now, the last person to come in is Asuka. And she starts throwing kendo sticks after kendo sticks. And she was really smart about this, Rob, because she went under the ring, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So she gets the kendo sticks. They cheer, then they boo. She goes, lifts the apron back open again, and Dakota Kai was great here because she assisted in all these weapon exchanges. So she goes in the ring a second time, like, oh, now she's got to get the table. We've been chanting for a table this whole match. She brings out 2 more kendo sticks, boos, and then she opens up the apron again, gets the table out, and she gets maybe the second biggest pop of the whole night, which obviously, Punk was by far the biggest. They get in there and the War Games match starts, and it's just absolutely crazy. And Io does this really cool spot where she ties the chain to a kendo stick to get the trash can that Shotzi has. And Io, we've seen her do this spot before, but she does a dive off the cage while she's in the trash can, which is absolutely insane because you're literally doing a blind leap. It is literally a leap of faith. You're diving off that thing that I guess is like 15 feet high, and you have a metal trash can around you. That's absolutely insane for her to do. I thought maybe she would do the moonsault But I mean, as much as we love EO, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a huge fan of Stardom, huge fan of EO. But if anybody's going to do the moonsault off the cage, it's going to be your biggest star in the match. That's Charlotte. Charlotte hits this moonsault off the cage, and her knee just catches poor EO in the head. With all the wrath of injuries to our favorite wrestlers in Stardom, I was like, oh no. Is like EO Stardom adjacent? Is she going to get injured now? Because they kept showing it over and over and over again. I'm like, how is EO getting up? We did see pictures about an hour or so after the show of EO's forehead just being completely carved up by Charlotte's knee. Thank God there was no neck injury, no head injury. It was just Charlotte's knee just hit her in the head. And folks, that's wrestling. Stuff like that happens, especially when you do high risk moves in this style match. Kairi just starts backfisting everybody with a trash can, thinking she's in the ring with Giulia, like just dropping everybody with the cutlass. Like it's like, man, Kairi's not holding anything back. She's literally Stardom Kairi put into this match, rightfully so. You want to break up the violence. Bayley does a great. Anytime that Asuka, Io, or Kairi would eat big moves from Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, or Shotzi, Bayley came in and made the save on every one of them, making sure that her team would win. Because that's kind of the story going forward is kind of don't know where Bayley, who's supposedly the leader of Damage Control, really fits into this new thing of Damage Control. So she's just breaking up every pinfall. Finally, just the heels, Damage Control just gets completely exhausted. And then they just, Bianca hits the KOD, Shotzi hits the top rope senton, and then Becky hits the manhandle slam through the table that the crowd was waiting for. Great job putting that spot on last. They were chanting for the table literally the entire match, and they give it to them at the very end with a huge bump, putting Bayley to the table. Damage Control eats the L, which I didn't see coming. I really thought, like, this is your hottest thing that you have going on your entire roster. It's drawing the most ratings. You're going to have them eat an L in really their first big match on a big pay-per-view in front of a hot crowd. But I guess we'll see what happens this Friday, because it really seems like maybe this is where the cracks were going. I was hoping, Rob, really hoping Damage Control would win this for several reasons. Obviously, I want to see them win. I want to see, Io and Kairi in this group get built up even more. But it really seems like they're going to eventually go to Bayley versus Io somewhere down the line. And I was hoping that Bayley, Damage Control keeps getting wins where Bayley still doesn't know where she stands. And then Bayley wins the Rumble. And because we will be there live, how awesome would it be to see an Io Shirai WWE World Championship defense at WrestleMania in Philadelphia at a WrestleMania that we'll be at? So I think that would be really cool. It seems like they're rushing a little bit more. It really seems like maybe they're going to go with Charlotte and Bianca, which I guess I can kind of see, but at the same time, you have a hot hand here with Damage Control and a hot hand with Io. We mentioned before, Rob, how Stardom is willing to try new things on their big show, where to me, it doesn't seem like they're trying to, they're going to try new things come WrestleMania. Obviously, we still have time. We shall see. I thought this match was great. I thought it was the best match of the show. I had it 4.25 stars, but still a little head scratchy on why Damage Control lost their first big match as a team here.
Yeah, agreed. Very, very strange booking. I can see what they were trying to do in terms of the whole where does Bayley fit in, and then, Bayley sacrificing herself. I gave it 4 stars. I agree. Probably the best match of the card. I think it just pipped the men's match. Men's even. But overall, really, really, really good showing. I did enjoy the fact that we got a Triple Tails reference from Michael Cole, of all people, which did not seem right. He was like, Io Sky and Asuka, part of Triple Tails in Japan. I was like, whoa! What?
He's done that he's done that a few times, and I mentioned on the show before when Io won the championship at SummerSlam when she cashed in. As soon as the 3 count happened and the crowd kind of settled down a little and she held the belt up, Michael Cole's call was from the world of Stardom to star of the world. And I was like, what? Or like champion, like he mentioned Stardom. So Michael Cole has been, I feel bad for him. Jim Ross does it all the time. Michael Cole for a decade caught flack because he had to replace Jim Ross. In my opinion, Jim Ross is the greatest of all time. And he's done a great job these past 6 or 7 years, and he really does his homework when it comes to stuff like this. Again, he mentioned Stardom. He mentioned, Io teaming with Asuka and her sister, I believe her name is Mio, in Japan, how many years ago. So he does a great job doing his homework, and I think Michael Cole really needs to get his just dues because he's a really great announcer.
Right, so now that we've gone into the world of America and found out what's going on with Io and Kairi, it's time to jump back to Nagoya for the pay-per-view on the 2nd of December. We've had the full card announced, and we're going to just quickly run through it now, give our predictions for the title match, and then we will be reviewing this in full next week. Now, at the moment, on World Wonder Ring Stardom's official website, the main event is currently listed as the tag title match. Micah and Megan Bayne versus Utami and Saya. That is currently listed as the main event. Of course, it's wrestling, subject to change. Now, if we read from the bottom up, we have a tag match. Mina Shirakawa and Yuzuki versus Miyu Amasaki and Hanako. Singles match, Mei Sakurai versus Ruaka. Another tag match, Saori Anou and Yuna Mizumori versus Hanan and Saya Ida of Wingori. 6-woman tag, the God's Eye team of Shiori, Mirai, and Ami Sori taking on Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Starlight Kid. Could that potentially be the match that sets up the white belt match ahead of Dream Queendom? We've then got the UWF rules match, Nanae Takahashi versus Alice Inc. High Speed Championship match, Mei Seira the champion taking on Tekla. Strong Women's Championship match, Giulia the champion taking on Azumi. World Title Challenger Certificate, Suzu Suzuki versus Hazuki. And in the main event, Divine Kingdom, Micah and Megan Bayne taking on AphroditE. Now, Matt, I'm going to give you a challenge simply because, as always, we've run over a little bit and I've got to leave for football in 6 minutes. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to reread you those title matches. I just want you to give me one word who is going to win. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Right, let's do this. Nanae Takahashi versus Alice Inc. UWF.
Nanae.
I'm getting Alice. I think Alice has to win a UWF rules match. She was never going to beat Shiori. I think it makes sense to beat the person who hasn't done shoot wrestling in a while. High Speed, Mei Seira versus Tekla.
May.
Yeah, I'm going with May. Her reign is extremely entertaining. Don't end it now. Be a great match, though. Giulia versus Azumi.
Oh, it's a toughie. Giulia.
I'm going Giulia as well. Partly because of everything we've just discussed. My main event, Suzu Suzuki versus Hazuki. We're both going Suzu Suzuki, aren't we?
And my main event as well. No disrespect to my girls over at AphroditE. This is going to be the match of the show, potential match of the year. Suzu Suzuki wins, but you know who really wins, Rob? We do.
The fans.
We do.
Absolutely. And finally, Divine Kingdom versus AphroditE for the Goddess of Stardom Championships.
Bow down to the queens, brother. Saya and Utami, AphroditE.
Has to be AphroditE. Has to be AphroditE. They've just returned. Micah's going to be in the main event of Sumo Hall. Doesn't need the tag titles. Let's put it on AphroditE and let them hold it for 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings to an end our podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Thank you so much, as always, for listening and just basically interacting with us. It's always really cool to have people tell us that they listen to the podcast wherever you're from, and thank you. It's really quite humbling. If you haven't already, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We are quite literally, as I've said, everywhere. If you want, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardomcast. However, if you don't want to do that, I completely understand. Maybe consider leaving a 5-star review and a comment on the podcast app of your choice, as it really does help us out and helps us be exposed to more people as we spread the world of Stardom. You can follow us on social media at the Stardomcast, the same on YouTube as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. Real Rob Goodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely. Questions, comments, anything you want to talk about, especially this big pay-per-view coming up on Saturday. We'll be watching it live. Matt Turner, OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. You want to shoot me an email? StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, once again, we cannot say thank you enough for the fantastic support and the insane growth of the show. It really blows our mind. We cannot do this without you because, like I always say, bye, poi. And I also say, just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all in this together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.